My name is Lorena Callahan. I'm 26, and I've spent most of my life as the ghost daughter in a family that never wanted to see me. My mother remarried when I was 6 to a man named Romero Mendoza, real estate tycoon, public philanthropist, and the kind of man who could turn a family into a corporation. My older sister, Gypsy, adapted. She became the heir. I became the question mark. While she wore pearls and prepped for boardrooms, I worked double shifts and kept a drawer full of eviction notices. I always knew I was the spare. I just didn't know how far they'd go to erase me completely. That truth came the night Romero handed my sister $25 million and told me, across a table of champagne and steak, to go earn my own money. But what he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that my real father left behind something even bigger, and someone was willing to kill for it. Cameras flashed as the server poured wine into the 5th glass. Bordeaux. In 1997, Romero had good taste and even better lawyers. The table was long, polished mahogany, candles flickering over carefully curated smiles. Gypsy sat to Romero's right. Of course she did. "Lorena, eat something," my mother said flatly, not looking up from her plate. I cut into the lamb. It bled a little. I didn't eat. "You look thin," Gypsy added with faux concern, dabbing her lips. "Still doing. Painting." "I am," I replied. "Still doing. Nothing that matters." Romero chuckled. His fingers tapped against his wine glass. There was always a rhythm to these dinners. Toast, reminisce, passive-aggressively dismantle my existence, dessert, disappear. Until Romero raised a hand. "I want to make an announcement," he said. Silence fell with a weight. He reached into his blazer and pulled out a sleek leather folio. "After much consideration, I've updated the estate plan," he continued. "Effective today, Gypsy is the sole beneficiary of my active holdings, trust funds, and future interests, totaling approximately $25.3 million. My fork hit porcelain. "She's earned it," he said. "She's reliable, loyal." "And me?" I asked, voice dry. He smiled, practiced, precise. "You've always wanted independence, Lorena. You'll get to live it." My mother sipped her wine, unbothered. Gypsy said nothing. The server cleared plates, pretending not to notice the grenade Romero had just dropped into the center of the table. A quote from somewhere echoed in my skull. Some inherit wealth. Others inherit war. The air tasted like iron. Rain hit the pavement like nails as I stepped out onto the estate's circular drive. No coat. No plan. I walked until I reached the far gate, boots soaked, hair matted. That's when I saw him. A man standing under a street lamp, head down, soaked to the bone. He wore black. Gloved hands. Something clutched between his fingers. A cream envelope. He stepped forward slowly. "Lorena Callahan," he asked. I didn't answer. He offered the envelope. He said to give you this. I frowned. "Romero." The man shook his head. "Your real father." Then he turned and vanished into the fog, as if rehearsed. My hands trembled as I opened the envelope. Inside, a single metal key. Numbered. Cold. No note. No explanation. But deep in my gut, I knew what it meant. Romero may have cut me off tonight. But this was my father's first move. And it wasn't over. Not even close. I didn't sleep. The key stayed in my hand the whole night. Cold. Heavy. Too real to ignore. At 5:17 a.m., I packed a backpack, threw on a hoodie, and left the motel before the sun touched the windows. The streets were quiet, but my chest wasn't. My heart beat like a timer. I took the key to the only place I could think of, the diner off 3rd and Hoyt. Greasy counters, cheap coffee, no questions. The key was brass, engraved, Lockbox 3087, Brooklyn Federal Vaults. I stared at it while the waitress poured lukewarm coffee and looked away. This wasn't a gift. It was a warning in disguise. My real father hadn't sent flowers. He'd sent a trigger. 2 hours later, I was standing in front of a concrete building with no signage, just cameras, a fingerprint scanner, and a silent man in a charcoal suit who checked my ID 3 times before finally letting me in. "You're on record," he muttered, scanning the key. "One-time access only. If you remove the contents, you can't come back." The vault door groaned open. Inside, rows of steel boxes lined the walls like coffins. Third row, second from the left. The lock clicked. I held my breath and pulled. Inside was a manila envelope. Nothing else. No jewels. No cash. Just a flat, sealed packet with my name written in block letters. Lorena C. I opened it on a bench outside. A single page. A notarized legal document. The Callahan Discretionary Trust. Signed 5 years ago. There was a clause highlighted. That triggered only upon legal disinheritance by any guardian figure, including but not limited to step-parent S, spouses, or legal representatives. My fingers went numb. Romero cutting me off wasn't the end. It was the beginning. I walked fast. Then I ran. By the time I reached my old apartment, my legs were shaking. My key didn't fit. New lock. Digital. I buzzed the manager. No answer. Then I saw the sign taped to the door. Lease terminated. Property sold. My apartment was gone. My name was scrubbed. No email. No text. Nothing. Just a void where my life used to be. I didn't cry. I kicked the side entrance until the latch cracked and slipped inside. Dust. Silence. My canvases gone. Furniture cleared. But one frame was still on the wall. The one painting I refused to sell. A black swirl over gray ash. I called it Inheritance. Behind it, taped to the back, was a small black USB. No label. No markings. Just a USB. I took it. Cut scene. At a library downtown, I plugged it in. One folder. JC private. One video file. I clicked play. My father's face appeared. Older. Tired. But alive. Shot on a shaky camera. He looked directly at me. If you're watching this, it means Romero's done what I predicted. He looked down. Then back. He doesn't just want control. He wants erasure. I've left you tools. Use them carefully. Then static. The screen went black. I turned fast. Someone was standing at the end of the row of computers. Just a shadow. They stepped back. Gone. I pulled the USB, shoved it in my pocket, and walked out, eyes scanning every reflection in glass doors and car mirrors. At the corner of Atlantic and Fifth, a man in a tan trench coat approached me. "Miss Callahan." He flashed a badge too fast. "I represent Mendoza Properties. There's been a misunderstanding regarding your lease. We'd like to offer you compensation." I stepped back. "Stay away from me." He smiled. "You should take the offer, or things get complicated." "I'm already complicated," I said. "Good," he muttered. "Then you'll understand escalation." He handed me an envelope. Court summons. Romero was suing me for breach of contract for the painting I refused to sell. One painting. It wasn't about the money. It was about power. I ran. No Uber. No cash. No trust fund. Just one contact left. I pulled out my cracked phone and typed. Zena Keller. Former legal partner. Romero's fixer. Rumored to be disbarred. Dangerous. The kind of person who knew where bodies were buried because she helped dig the holes. I met her at a bar with no name in the East Village. She didn't ask how I found her. She lit a cigarette and said, "You finally opened the box." I froze. I told him that clause was insane, she exhaled. He said you'd need a nuclear option. Welcome to the fallout. Do you know what's in the trust? No. But I know it's tied to something Romero doesn't want opened. And if you have it, Ido, then you need to run. I need to fight. Zena leaned in. Then you need to see what else your father left behind. She slid a flash drive across the table. I never said I kept a copy. That night, I checked into a motel outside the city. One lock, one chain, a flickering hallway light. At 2:14 a.m., the window creaked. I sat up. Silence. Then, scrape. Something metal. Outside, a shadow passed behind the curtains. I froze. Footsteps. Heavy. Deliberate. Someone was inside the room. A gloved hand opened my backpack. I didn't breathe. I texted Zena one word. Run. He's not trying to take what I have. He's trying to erase me. The sun hadn't risen yet when I met Zena at the subway station under Fulton. She wore a trench coat, sunglasses, and a look that said don't ask. Manhattan Federal Trust, she said, pulling a black badge from her coat. This will get us in. Once. The city above us was still asleep. But my pulse wasn't. The second you step into that vault, you're not anonymous anymore, she said, lighting a cigarette with one hand. Romero will know. He has eyes inside everything. I nodded. Let him watch. Cut to marble floors, steel doors, no sainig, no smiles. The kind of building where secrets are kept in climate control and bulletproof casing. We signed the visitor log with fake names. Zena tapped in a code. A guard escorted us downstairs. Lockbox 9217, Zena whispered. The vault was freezing. Humid air, smell of metal and old dust. A dull click when the key turned. Inside, a leather portfolio, a flash drive in a sealed bag, and a folded letter marked confidential. Trigger activated. Zena opened the letter first. Read silently. Her hand stopped moving halfway through. What? I asked. Her voice was low. It's not just a trust. It's an override clause. Your father left you controlling interest in Callahan Holdings, and a contingent claim against Romero's top asset if you're legally disinherited. My throat tightened. Meaning, you own the shell company that owns half his fortune, and he doesn't know yet. We moved fast. Zena stuffed everything into her satchel. Then a sound. Metal screech. I turned. 2 men in dark suits stepped into the hallway. Miss Callahan, one said. Please hand over the folder. He raised a gun. Silencer attached. Zena moved first. Through the satchel toward the stairwell. The other man caught it midair. The first fired. Glass behind us shattered. We ducked. Zena screamed, Move! I ran. Down the hall. Into the emergency stairwell. Zena didn't follow. I hit the street-level door like a hammer. Alarm blaring. Rain pounding the concrete. No time to think. Just move. Outside, the world felt too open. I hailed the first cab I saw. Driver blinked at me. Soaking wet, blood on my elbow. Where to? He asked. Anywhere with a door that locks. Cut to the back of a bookstore. Zena's emergency hideout. Wi-Fi. 2 laptops, a burner printer. I plugged in the flash drive. A folder appeared. Callahan understood a vault flush. Hundreds of files. Password locked. Zena's satchel sat beside me. Empty. She never made it out. My hands shook as I typed. The password was a quote from the letter. He won't take what defines you. Access granted. The folder opened. Scans of internal Mendoza accounts. Money transfers. Shell corporations. One document labeled Asset Takedown. Third-party acquisition. Lorena Callahan. .pdf. I hit plan. For me. I froze. He didn't want to bankrupt me. He wanted to erase my identity. I backed away from the screen. One rule kept playing in my head. Whoever controls the narrative controls the outcome. Romero didn't just control assets. He controlled perception. Courtrooms. Newsrooms. Family dinners. Until now. I pulled out my phone. Searched for one name. Reed Montgomery. Disbarred journalist. Exposed to senators offshore laundering. Then disappeared. He owed my father a favor. Now he owed me a chance. 2 hours later, I knocked on his door in Tribeca. He opened half an inch. "You look like hell," he muttered. "You were expecting a ghost," I said. "Let's pretend I'm both." He stared, then opened the door wider. Inside, walls covered in newspaper clippings, timelines, names connected by red thread. He took the flash drive without a word. Watched the video. Listened to my father's recorded warning again. And again. When the screen went black, he lit a cigarette and said, "You're sitting on a bomb." "I don't want to drop it. I want to aim it." "Careful," he said, leaning back. "That kind of thinking gets people buried." I looked him dead in the eye. "Then we bury him first." 3 hours later, Reed's phone buzzed. Zena's name. Except it wasn't her voice. A male voice. Calm. Cold. "You don't want to escalate this." Then a pause. "Tell Lorena. Next time I won't miss." Zena's gone. And I just became target number 1. By the time Reed finished decrypting the second layer of the flash drive, I was pacing like a tiger in a cage. The air in his apartment tasted metallic, recycled breath, old coffee, fear. He had 3 deadbolts and a shotgun under the couch, but none of it made me feel safe. Reed looked up. "You're not going to like this." "I haven't liked a damn thing since Tuesday." He turned the screen toward me. A list. Names. Banks. Transfers. At the top, Romero Mendoza. At the bottom, Sasha Callahan. My mother. I blinked. She's listed as an originator. Offshore routing. Cayman. Seychelles. Then looped through a fake charity and back into a U.S. property trust, which just bought your apartment. Cutscene. I sat down hard. My legs didn't trust the floor. She signed off on it. She coordinated it. Reed leaned forward. "Lorena, your mother's not collateral. She's complicit." The world tilted. My mother had always been cold, polished. But this? "There are 2 kinds of people in the world," I muttered. "Those who bury secrets, and those who dig them up too late." Reed cracked a beer. "You're the second kind. That's what makes you dangerous." I stood. Not dangerous enough. We had to move. Fast. The documents had timestamps. Encryption trail. Someone would know the files had been accessed within hours, maybe minutes. Reed ran a white protocol. "Once this goes out, we can't take it back." "Good," said. "Let it burn." We didn't go out the front door. Too obvious. Back alley. Into a rideshare under a fake name. I sat low in the seat. Hoodie up. Destination. A storage facility in Queens. Under my birth name, the one Romero tried to erase. Inside was a single locker. Dust covered. Left untouched for years. My father's old files. Sketchbooks. Letters. A safe. The code was his birthday. Inside, a thick black folder marked Nolan Keller, AMC. "What the hell is AMC?" I asked. Reed flipped through the pages. "Not a company. Asset Management Command. An unofficial group inside Romero's infrastructure. Private operatives. Surveillance. Blackmail. Erasure." "You're on the kill list," Reed said flatly. Cutscene. We didn't drive back. We ran. Straight into a hotel under a new name. Threw out our phones. Scrambled IDs. The TV was on in the lobby. "Breaking news! Romero Mendoza donates $10 million to New York's Rebuild Initiative." I stared at the screen. His smile. His lie. He was buying the city's silence while hunting me down. Upstairs, I locked the door. Twice. Then the room phone rang. I didn't move. 3 rings. Then it stopped. Reed grabbed the backup phone. Blocked number. Text. Check the window. I turned. Curtains drawn. Hand trembling, I peeled one back. Nothing but the streetlight. Then movement. A car. Black. Engine running. Door cracked open. No one got out. Cutscene. I slept with the safe folder under my pillow. Didn't really sleep. Just waited for the door to break. At 3:12 a.m., someone tried. Deadbolt held. But they didn't knock. Didn't say a word. Just jiggled the handle. And walked away. At dawn we left. Ditching the city wasn't an option. Romero owned the highways. We needed to go somewhere public. Somewhere I could force exposure. We chose the charity gala. Mendoza's biggest PR stunt of the year. I wore red. Reed wired me with a mic-hidden camera in my clutch. One shot. One crowd. If I made it to the ballroom, I could live-stream the files. But first, we had to get past security. The venue was glass and steel, gleaming like a weapon. Romero stood on stage with the mayor, smiling, shaking hands. His guards scanned faces. I stayed in the shadows. Then Gypsy spotted me. She froze mid-sentence, wine glass in hand. She walked straight over. "You shouldn't be here." "Neither should you," I said. "Not when your name's on offshore accounts tied to asset laundering." Her jaw clenched. "You don't understand what's at stake." "I understand you watched them try to erase me." "Because you were the threat," she snapped. "Still am." Then she leaned in. "You think this ends with files? You don't know what he did to our real father." I blinked. "What?" But she turned, walked away, back to her champagne, her lies, her stage. Reed's voice buzzed in my ear. "Lorena, now or never." I stepped toward the stage, past the guards, toward the microphone. One move from exposure, and the lights cut out. The blackout hit like a punch to the ribs. 1 second, bright ballroom, polished glasses, curated smiles. The next, darkness swallowing everything whole. Screams cut through the air. A champagne flute shattered somewhere near the stage. My pulse jumped like it was trying to escape my body. "Lorena, move!" Reed hissed through the mic. I ducked behind a serving cart. My heels slipped on spilled wine. Then spotlight snapped back on. A narrow beam cut across the chaos. It landed on me. Not on the mayor. Not on Romero. On me. A message. A threat. A claim. My breath stuttered. Someone brushed past my shoulder. Too close. Too intentional. I turned. Gypsy. Her lipstick smudged. Her eyes blown wide. "You're insane for coming here," she snapped. "I didn't come for a reunion." "You never do." We stared at each other. Two sisters carved from the same bone, but trained by different monsters. "Why did you say he did something to our father?" I asked, breath thin. Her mouth opened, then the speakers screeched with feedback. Romero stepped on stage, palms raised, smiling like the blackout was a party trick he'd planned. "Apologies, everyone. A minor electrical issue." Minor. Sure. Everything he touched was scripted, except me. Gypsy leaned in. "You want the truth?" He said our father was in the way. "In the way of what?" I whispered. She didn't answer. She couldn't. Not before the first gunshot slammed into the ballroom doors. Cutscene. Panic erupted. Guests dropped to the floor. Chairs toppled. A waiter screamed as silver trays crashed. Security guards swarmed, pushing people toward the back exits. Reed's voice cracked over the mic. "Lorena, someone's aiming for Gypsy. Get her down." I grabbed her wrist and yanked her behind a column. A bullet bit into the marble inches from her head. She gasped. "That wasn't random." "No," I said. "It was a warning." "To who?" "To all of us." We crawled beneath the dining tables until we reached a service hallway. The lights flickered like they were arguing with themselves. Reed met us at the end of the corridor, laptop clutched to his chest. His hair was damp from sweat. "You both need to see this," he said. He flipped the screen open. A financial tracing web. Lines. Names. Debt accounts. Fake charities. At the center, Gypsy Mendoza. Her face, drained of color. What is that?" "A $10 million transfer into your account last week," Reed said. "Not Romero's. Not the trust. Something else. Something dirty. I never received." "It was placed there," he cut in, "to frame you when the investigation hits." Her eyes shook. "For what?" "For murder," he said. The room spun. Reed clicked another file. A surveillance still appeared. A man slumped over a car seat, eyes half open, blood blooming on his shirt. Jerome Callahan. My father. My throat cracked. No. No. "Romero made it look like a heart attack," Reed said quietly. "But the coroner report says blunt force trauma. Someone silenced him, and now they're tying loose ends." Gypsy backed into the wall like she needed it to breathe. "He told me Dad walked away from us. He swore it." "Your stepfather lies for sport," Reed muttered. Gypsy trembled. "He didn't just replace our father. He buried him." We didn't get time to absorb it. Security pounded down the hall. "Move," Reed ordered. "Now." We sprinted through the kitchen. Chefs yelling, pots crashing, steam burning my skin. Cut scene. We burst into the alley behind the venue. A black SUV screeched around the corner. Headlights flared. "They found us," Gypsy gasped. Reed shoved us behind a dumpster. "Stay low." The SUV slowed. A window rolled down. A single bullet hit the steel dumpster. The sound split the night open. Gypsy screamed. The SUV peeled away. My lungs burned like gravel was inside them. What the hell was that? I choked. Reed lifted his phone. A message glowed across the screen. "Your sister was never meant to inherit anything. She was meant to disappear." Gypsy sobbed into her hands. I felt my spine turn to ice. "We need to go somewhere safe," Reed said. "There is no safe," I whispered. "Not anymore." We hid inside an abandoned storage garage Reed used for dead drops. It smelled like gasoline and mold. Gypsy curled against the wall, shaking violently. I handed her my jacket. She whispered, "All these years I thought he chose me, loved me, shaped me." I sat beside her. "Monsters don't love," I said. "They collect." Her chin quivered. "Why did he make me the heir?" "For leverage," Reed answered. "For optics. For control." I added softly, "And because I was too much trouble to mold." Gypsy shut her eyes. A tear slid down. "Now he wants me gone," she whispered. Reed nodded. "And he just tried to take you out in a room full of witnesses. That's escalation." "I don't understand," she choked. "Why me?" "He's cleaning up," Reed said, "before everything collapses." "What collapses?" I asked. Reed handed me a tablet. On the screen, a redacted FBI inquiry into AMC operations, listing multiple shell companies, including Gypsy's trust. Romero wasn't gifting her wealth. He was laundering evidence through her. And when the feds came knocking, she'd be the fall. Not him. My heartbeat turned sharp. "He's using her as a shield," I said. Reed nodded. "And now that you're in the way, he'll go through anyone." Gypsy grabbed my hand. "You can't leave me alone with him." I squeezed back. "I won't." She swallowed. "What do we do?" "We fight back," Reed said. "How?" I asked. He looked at me with something terrifying in his eyes. "By doing the one thing he'll never expect." "What's that?" Reed smiled grimly, turning his daughters into his downfall. But the moment I took the tablet from Reed, a small LED in the corner blinked red. Gypsy saw it first. "What is that?" I flipped it over. A tracker, planted in the bag we stole from the gala. My stomach dropped. "He knows where we are." Gypsy's breath broke. Reed closed the blinds, locked the door, and grabbed his gun. "Get ready," he said. "Because Romero didn't run from that ballroom. He's baiting you to finish it." The safe house smelled like damp leather and regret. Outside, the rain blurred the world into streaks of headlights and sirens. Inside, Reed was a shadow pacing back and forth, gun in one hand, burner phone in the other. 3 minutes, he muttered. That's all we have. I loaded the file onto the encrypted drive, fingers trembling. My father's voice played in my head. His last recorded message, buried in the hard drive, Reed, recovered from the old lockbox. If you're hearing this, Lorena, it means Romero finally buried the last lie. But there's one thing he can't destroy, the truth. Gypsy sat on the floor, cradling herself. Her skin was ash. Her voice was wind. We're going to die tonight, aren't we? No, I said. We're going to end this. Reed's phone lit up. Blocked number. He answered. Talk. A voice, smooth, venomous. Romero. I'm giving you a choice, he said. Walk away, Lorena. Take your sister. Disappear. Or I bury you both, like I buried your father. Funny, I said into the phone. You already buried your legacy. Cut scene. Downtown. Federal courthouse. Midnight. We entered through the garage with Agent Harlan's badge. The USB was in Reed's pocket. The affidavit already signed. A press alert scheduled to drop in 10 minutes with everything. Forged accounts, money laundering, murder cover-ups, real estate rackets, and the falsified will Romero used to seize my father's assets. And Gypsy's trust? A federal front she never knew she was attached to. One wrong press conference, and she would have been indicted for federal crimes. But now Romero would be. We reached the upper chamber. FBI agents lined the hallway. Gypsy hesitated. He'll retaliate. I nodded. Let him. Truth doesn't fear shadows. She touched my arm. Thank you. For not leaving me. I wanted to, I said. For years. But hate can't fix blood. We handed the drive to Agent Harlan. He connected it to the secure terminal. On the screen, everything. My father's death report. The falsified will. Transfers. Surveillance footage. Even the coded memos between AMC execs. Romero wasn't a man. He was a system. Built on fear, loyalty, and silent signatures. And now that system was collapsing. Cut scene. We stepped outside. Police radios crackled. Helicopters above. Reed stood next to a federal SUV, loading the last of the documents. We've got witnesses lined up, he said. Your dad's lawyer came forward. So did the old CFO. How long until it's public? I asked. He checked his watch. 1 minute. I glanced at Gypsy. She wasn't the woman who toasted with champagne in Romero's name anymore. She was a survivor. And sometimes survivors are the only ones who know how to burn a kingdom down. The first news alert hit my phone. Breaking. Billionaire Romero Mendoza faces multiple indictments. I read every word. Every lie unspooled into daylight. Reed exhaled like he'd been underwater. Power doesn't make a man untouchable, I said. It just makes the fall harder. He smiled. You always did like poetic justice. Only when it bleeds. Cut scene. Romero's estate. 2 hours later. FBI raided with a warrant. He was gone, but not far. They found him at a private airport, trying to board a jet to Panama. He didn't resist. He didn't blink, because men like him don't believe in endings. Only delays. 2 weeks later, Gypsy and I stood outside the probate court. The original will have been reinstated. My father's voice read through the courtroom like wind through a forest. To my daughter, Lorena, who knew the value of silence and the cost of truth. I leave everything. Gasps. Glares. The judge nodded. Stamped. Final. In the hallway, Gypsy leaned against the marble wall. You earned this. I didn't. I turned to her. You were raised in a lie. That's not your fault. She wiped her eye. What will you do with all of it? Build something clean, I said. Something honest. She smirked. Sounds boring. I laughed. Maybe. But survival gave me anger. Truth gave me clarity. Now I want peace. We walked out together. Outside, the sun hit different. No longer filtered by fear. No longer bent by shadows. Just light. Clean and real. And for the first time in my life, I believed what my father once whispered to me when I was 6 and crying behind the staircase. They can steal money. They can forge power. But they can never own who you become. I looked up, and I knew this was who I became.